So who knows what's going on in Ukraine? Anyone except Benjamin Sandler. So let's do it.
I asked you to get a lecture on Ukraine.
I'm being proactive. I want to know what. Sorry, let me ask someone who really wouldn't know that much. Ben.
I can tell you about you.
Ben, go ahead. What's basically going on in Ukraine?
Well,
Very basically. As in like 30 seconds. All right, I'll do it. Not today. Not today. What has been going on in Ukraine?
Today's pretty big.
I know. I'm going to talk about that.
Dude,
This is totally backfiring. Matt Kessler.
The Ukraine is fighting against. There's government and opposition forces arguing for either further integration into Russian economic systems or the integration into the EU, and that government opposition is sort of clashing violently.
Bingo. Okay, so that's exactly what I was looking for.
It's the first time I've ever been considered.
So this revolt's called the Euromaidan. It's a very weird name. That hasn't really been, I don't think, thrown around that much, but Euromaidan, whatever.
Is that what they call the square?
Huh?
Is that what they call the square?
I think so, yeah. I think the square in
Liberation Square.
Independence Square.
Is it?
That's ironic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Basically, what they're fighting over is, I'll tell you how this started. So some of the main causes of this are police brutality, which has been kind of prevalent in Ukraine, government corruption, the suspension of the European Union agreement, and Russian foreign policy, basically. So what's happening is that, okay, do you guys know what Gazprom is?
Yes.
Like what?
Okay,
The
Matt Kessler, please explain.
The Russian-sponsored oil company co-owned by Roman Abramovich on Chelsea.
Right. So real quick. The president of Ukraine is Yanukovych, Viktor Yanukovych. That's who they're riding against. Thanks. Good. And what they wanted to do was what their goal of now the protesters is to basically kick him out of office. Okay, that's their goal. So Gazprom has a lot to do with this because Ukraine has a lot of natural resources, specifically natural gas and coal and oil and stuff. So Russia has been trying to basically buy Ukraine in a way, and many people in Ukraine are starting to see Ukraine as a puppet of Russia. And so that's why some of these protests have started. So they've been going on since November. I'm just looking for some specifics here. Yeah, so the 21st of November, after the preparations for the signing of the association agreement or the free trade agreement with the EU was supposed to be signed. The highest number of protesters they had was around 800,000, I believe, in early November, and now they're starting to pick back up again. So basically what's happening in Ukraine is that the Ukrainian people want to be associated with the Western world, i.e. the EU, and not like Russia, and so that they're protesting against that. So actually, some really, really cool stuff happened this morning. Really timely lecture. The Ukrainian president and the opposition are going to sign an early poll deal. Now, it hasn't been signed yet, but the president, Mr. Yukonovich, has right. I'm saying that right.
He's
correctly?
pronounced it.
Yanukovych. Mr. Yanukovych is what it is. Vic. So Vic has agreed to sign this deal with the opposition, saying that the elections will come in this year, and that's what the opposition was basically vying for. So this is kind of like a pointless lecture because the riots are basically over because they got what they wanted.
So why is it important, Omer?
So it's important. It's important. Let me tell you why it's important. Wait, did you have something to say?
Oh no, well, I was just going to point out that there was a truce that was broken a couple of days ago. It didn't last very long, but also that the protesters, they've become far more radical, and I know that there's a lot of fascists and anarchists and extremist groups taking to the streets, and it's possible that they won't stop.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of chaos. There's actually some of the pictures are horrifying. I know a lot of people are on Reddit. There was a picture of Kiev before and after the Kiev. Okay, look, pronouncing Eastern European things.
It's a phonetic word.
Kiev, before and after the protests were actually really intense. But the thing is, this has happened before. So this isn't the first wave of protests in Ukraine. This isn't the first wave of protests in Ukraine. In 2004, there's something called the Orange Revolution. Does anyone want to enlighten us on what the Orange Revolution is or was? Anyone?
Their annual Ukraine.
The Orange Revolution was basically the same kind of thing, except that people were rallying because of, I guess, almost the same thing. Economic problems, close ties with Russia, abuses by the government. So this kind of thing has happened before, and Ukrainian citizens have rallied against their government multiple times. But I guess this time was the biggest ever. And they apparently got what they wanted because this morning, as I said, they signed the opposition deal. I don't think there's much else to say about that.
Wait, so if it's a democratically elected government and they had the same issue in 2004, what will elections change?
Well, I honestly can't tell you. That's what they wanted. They just wanted to. They just wanted to get Yanukovych. I'm saying that consistently. Yanukovych out of
But if
office.
the same party
I
stay in
think that-
power, they're still going to remain in the
Well, no, they.
Well-
Well, now that.
But genuine political leaders, when they also
Right.
express views about going to Russia.
Right.
Connor
They
said
want.
that
They
they
want.
won't
They want to sign. They want to be closer to the West, and they think Yanukovych is much more centered towards Russia.
I don't think when people elected Yanukovych, I don't think they realized how, like, pro-Russia he was. So that's why a bunch of people came out to the streets like, we voted for this guy, this is not what we wanted.
There's also a lot of
So
geographical
it's a terrible
differences,
mistake.
like West Ukraine and East Ukraine are heavily divided.
Yeah, East Ukraine. East Ukraine is more Russian just because of the
but
energy
Kiev
sector
is
there.
also in the West, so the protesters you've been seeing are the people who are upset, and they're in the place where the majority of the opposition is.
There's
So you can
definitely
just have
people-
a very vocal opposition.
I'm sure,
and a
I'm
very
sure. No,
There's
quiet
definitely people who want.
majority.
There's the thing is a lot of Eastern Ukraine has a lot of natural resources, and that's where a lot of Russian I guess I don't know if it's Gazprom specifically, but definitely Russian money has been flowing into Eastern Ukraine to develop its natural resources. So a lot of people out here actually kind of like Russia because of all the money they're pumping into the country. But the ones in the West are also like even though they like Russia, there's been a lot of abuses by the government, and like the Ukrainian government has been historically abusive towards people. In 2004, they had some amendment that was like labeled unconstitutional, but then the government went back and labeled it constitutional anyway. There's a lot of like abuses, so it's not just, I guess the rally isn't just against Russia and for the EU, it's also just for like more civil liberties and less police brutality and less government corruption, basically.
I mean, historically, Ukraine has been part of Russia for a very long time.
Right, since, after the Soviet Union collapsed, they became not.
How long were they part of Russia, though? Does anyone know that?
Well, as long as the Soviet Union was.
Yeah, as long as
Until 1990.
As long as the Soviet Union
If you're
was.
paying attention in
Pre-Soviet
Ukraine.
Union, were they independent?
pre-Soviet.
Because I feel like Ukraine's been a part of.
They were part of the Soviet Union, I don't think they were ever part of
I
Russia.
think they were part of Russia though. Yeah, I think
1981.
We have smartphones, we can really look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
that.
that's fine. But I think, I'm pretty sure that it's not just like economic issues, there's also like an issue of like culture and identification with this too.
Yeah.
It's a literal
They're
divide.